Hello, and welcome back to the channel. As most of you know, I'm Topher, and for those of you who don't know and just randomly decided to click on my video, welcome to the channel. I'm Topher. Thank you for stopping by. So we're here to do a reaction, and we're diving back into The Miracle of Teddy Bear. We're diving to episode 3. I didn't really have any plans of diving into this today, at least for this recording session. I had already spent 4 hours on stream with Synergic and Femmes React and Moon Consort reacting to episodes 3 and 4 of Moonlight Chicken, and then after that I just finished reacting to the finale of Word of Honor, and yeah, I didn't really have plans of reacting to anything else, but I'm in the middle of baking ish. I'm making some bacon jerky. My little sister's coming over tomorrow and she had a request for some bacon jerky, so I'm making some bacon jerky. But it's like a 4-hour process. And I've got like 2 hours left on the oven timer right now. So I was like, okay, I can either react to like maybe 2 episodes of Dark Blue Kiss, or I can get through an episode of Miracle of Teddy Bear, and that should like mentally shut me down for the day. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna dive into this and just see where the things go. This show has so many emotions in it, and last episode I was throwing, just spitballing all kinds of ideas and the theories and the hypothesizing what could be happening here, there, everywhere. But I got lots of questions, but I'm not too worried about them just yet because we're still early on in the series, and I feel like my questions will be answered. So we're just going to dive in and see what this episode has in store for us. Okay, as is the running theme with this series, so much happened in this episode. There's so much to dissect. But that is what happens when you have episodes that are almost an hour and a half long each, and we got 16 of these bitches, so it's like we got lots to dissect, lots to go into. And similar to the last 2 episodes, we had lots and lots of fun, cute moments, and then we had emotional gut punches. And I was, when that second to last scene was happening there, I'm like, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it through this series if every single, like, it's one thing for like, you know, the storyline to ramp up to a certain point in the series and we get this big emotional climax, but I feel like every episode we're hitting some big emotional climax. I'm like, y'all, my heart can only take so much. Like, goodness. That's why I said in the beginning that I don't feel like this is a series I can binge. Because A, they're very long episodes and there's lots of them. But B, because there's just so much that happens. You go on such an emotional journey. Oh my God. But as always, the acting is so fantastic. The acting is fantastic. The writing is so good. And some of my questions are being answered. Because I had a plethora of questions in episode 2 by the end of that. So some of those start to get answered, and then I have more questions that have popped up as a result. But let's kind of just scrub this episode. So we picked up where we left off. We found out that Nung had passed. It's been about a decade or so. And so, like I was saying there, I have theories as to why Tofu came back in the form of Nung. Because all we know is that Tofu was given to Nut by someone very important to him, but we haven't figured out who that person is. So theoretically, it could still be Nung. It could have been Nung. Although from the flashbacks we've been seeing of Nut in high school and his interactions with Nung, I don't know that they ever made it to that level of like closeness. Like, obviously Nut had feelings for him. He had a crush on him. It was his first love. He wrote the whole, series, in dedication to him. But I don't know that those feelings were returned, or if he ever, because it seemed like in one of the flashbacks we got, I think last episode, he was wanting to confess his feelings, but I don't know if he ever actually did. So I don't know if Nung would have been in a position to like, oh hey, here's a teddy bear. But maybe he did. Maybe he gave it to him for his birthday, or maybe they did. There were mutual feelings. I don't know. There's still so much time left for us to explore stuff, and so many more flashbacks for us to go through, so much history for us to learn. So I'm assuming we'll find out who gave him the teddy bear at some point. Again, I'm just spitballing ideas that are in my head right now, but I have no doubt that my questions will be answered soon enough. But yeah, so it theoretically could still have been Nung that gave him the teddy bear, so that might be a reason why he came back in the form of Nung. It could be something that, like, the Slipper were spitballing, like, oh, maybe he's possessed by Nung's spirit. Don't necessarily know that he's possessed by Nung's spirit, but maybe once that shooting star, went over, his spirit was in a state of unrest, and it bestowed some of its likeness onto the teddy bear, onto Tofu, and that's why he looks like that. Or maybe whatever witchcraft and magic chicanery that star had, whether the star had a consciousness or not, bringing Tofu to life, maybe it wasn't even the star. Maybe the star just allowed this to happen, but maybe it wasn't the star necessarily that was, like, dictating, hey, you come to life. Maybe it was some other force at work. But maybe whatever force at work that brought Tofu to life had a consciousness and did it for a reason, to help Nung move through some stage of healing. Because he, like I've said it every episode, he's a very angry boy. He has a lot of emotions and does not know how to handle most of them, does not know how to healthily, calmly process most of his emotions. He's very irate and will just fly off the handle. He's got lots of intense emotions. So maybe whatever power that's at play saw this opportunity as, like, hey, I'm going to send you this gift in the form of someone that you loved at some point, so hopefully that will be enough for him to be able to get past your defenses and stay with you long enough to help you heal and move on from all of this emotional baggage you got. Because he got a shit ton of emotional baggage. Like, I thought I had emotional baggage. This boy got a shit ton of emotional baggage. So maybe, Tofu was sent in the form, earthquake. Maybe Tofu was sent in the form of Nung to just disarm Nuts. It's, what's the word I'm looking for? Not his fortress, his walls. Disarm his... Insert word here. It's late. It's almost 2 o'clock in the morning. Never mind. It's after 2 o'clock in the morning. But disarm his big sense of security, so we can get into his heart, get into his emotions, and just get him to deal and process. Or maybe none of those things are the reason. There's no reason why he looks like Nung. He just happens to look like Nung. I don't think that's the case. I think they wouldn't have made him look like someone that he was in love with if this series wouldn't have that be a recurring detail if it weren't supposed to mean something at some point for some reason. So, but yeah, so Nung's dead. We spent some time paying our respects at the temple. Meanwhile, Gen and cute bike boy were having some more moments on the back of his bike. We got to see Gen and his parents, which is super duper adorable. I love the family dynamic. I love just the amount of accepting parents of their gay children that I'm seeing in recent series. But this one, specifically, I love the dynamic between he and his parents. It reminds me so much of me and my mom. And just the levity of it all, the carefree nature of it all, just the general enjoyment. where it's like, yes, you're my parents, I'm your son, but we've made it to this point in life where we're past that point of you're the disciplinarian and you're trying to raise me. We're all adults here and we love each other and we can have fun with each other. And it's just that sort of dynamic. I love to see it. It's not just, oh, I'm a supportive mom, I'm a supportive dad. I support you in your choices, and if you're gay, that's fine, cool. I won't stand in your way. It's like, no, they genuinely seem like they're friends, like they genuinely enjoy each other, and I love to see that interaction between them. And we got to see a little bit of cute bike boy's dad too, who's obviously still hurting because his son passed at a very young age, and I've never had a son who passed. I've never had a son. But I imagine that's not something you get over. Even if it's been a decade still, that's not something you just get over if you ever do. I've said this in many other series too, where similar sort of storylines have happened, where it's like, you have your good days, you have your bad days, but I don't think there's ever a point in time where you just move on or you forget them. Some days might be easier. Some days you might be happier. You might be thinking of them in a happy remembrance. And other days it hits you hard that they're not there. But I don't think that there's ever a time as a parent who has to outlive their child that you ever just get over that. So we got to see some of his dynamic with Sweet Bike Boy. I can't remember his name right now, so Sweet Bike Boy. And just basically him saying, hey, I'm still here, and anytime you feel like you want a hug or whatever, you just go ahead. And it was a very nice moment. We got some more with, I forget her name, the female coworker, the very pretty one. Some more of her delusions. Her story arc for this episode is she came to the realization that Nut was gay, not because she noticed things, but because someone told her, and she was shook to her core, and she didn't know what to do with herself. She's like, no, my God, I can't believe everyone that I love is gay. And I'm like, baby, you just gotta either stop falling in love so easily or just be a little bit more observant, because like Gen was saying, he's not hiding it. He's not out proud saying like, hey, I'm gay, everybody, but he's not making any kind of secret. You just gotta, like, the book is open, you just gotta read the book. So that was pretty much her storyline for the episode. Hopefully that, although it did kind of end there when she was drunk, like, I'm gonna just keep flirting with him until he tells me no. And I'm like, no, that's not what we want. That's not the storyline I need to see you go down. I've seen that enough times with various other series and other characters. No, we don't need to go down that line. So hopefully that's just her speaking drunkenly, and we don't beat that dead horse, because again, I've seen it a million times. I don't need to see it anymore. I'd like her to just start to move on and, potentially find a nice guy who is heterosexual and enjoys her, who she also enjoys. That would be nice. That would be nice for her. We had the whole chase scene because Nut ran out of the house and didn't take his lunch, and Tofu is just so innocent, so naive, and still learning the world, still learning. Like, yes, he has some knowledge, but in many other instances, as we saw throughout this episode, he does have a very juvenile, sort of infantile view of the world, and there's just a lot of experiences he doesn't have. And yes, he's like, oh, I've seen this stuff on TV and this, that, the other, but there's so many things that he just doesn't know. So he needs to be taught. He needs to learn. So he just hopped on a bike like, hey, follow that car. And he's like, yeah, I don't have any money. I'm like, oh, baby. So then homeboy on the bike was ready to like pummel him. I'm like, girl, calm down. Like, I mean, I get it. Like, you want to get paid for your job, but like also like, let's be a little less handsy, grabby. I'm gonna beat your ass out here in the front of this office, and like, let's like talk a little bit more. But thankfully the casting director lady was like, oh, I'll handle this. You must be here for the casting. I'm like, okay, that's nice and convenient. That she was so nice to be willing to just pay for some random person who may or may not be here for this casting. Also, I feel like if I were the driver, I would I mean, yes, it should be common knowledge that you have to pay the driver once the ride is done, but maybe you do a little verification. Hey, this is my rate. This is my fee. This is what I charge per hour, per mile, per whatever it is. Are you okay? Are you paying in cash or credit? Just certain questions. But whatever. It's fine. So then we had the whole casting scene. God, see, like I'm scrubbing through the episode and I'm like, I know I just sat here and watched it all, but it feels like it was 2 episodes ago, like 2-3 episodes ago. So much happens in these episodes. We had the whole casting and mall montage. And I really thought they were about to cast this poor boy in this series. I'm glad that the director, had enough foresight to be like, he's great, he's cute, he's adorable, but he's too young, he's too naive, he's not gonna work. I'm like, good, because that's the last thing I need, you bringing him into this acting universe. But I wouldn't mind seeing Sweet Bike Boy in this acting universe. But those moments that they were setting up with Nut and Tofu, like all these mock photo shoots and whatnot, very, very cute. And you could see Nut kind of falling in or kind of relaxing into the idea of, oh, hey, even if it's not Tofu he thinks he's looking at, it's like, okay, this is the person that I loved as a child. This is his face. We're putting him in his fucking uniform. Like, this is the kid I loved as a child. So he's kind of falling into those familiar feelings a little bit. It was nice to see. And we had the whole shopping spree, buying underwear, riding up and down escalators, buying ice cream, showing him how to brush his teeth. I'm like, oh, it's sweet. It's sweet. It's sweet. And then at some points I'm like, okay, it's a little weird to ship them together because he feels like such an infant that we're having to teach him these basic things. And it's like, oh, do I want to ship this fully grown man with this fully grown body but like this mind of an infant sort of? I'm like, oh no. But then there are other times where he has more mature thoughts and he feels like, so I think it's just a general lack of experience, not that he has the mind of an infant, just he just hasn't had these real world experiences, so he just doesn't know. But yeah, we had the whole toothbrush tutorial in the middle of the store for some reason, because again, I don't know why we couldn't just show him how to use a toothbrush at home when we can open the toothbrush and use it. But whatever, demonstrate in the middle of the store, and Jan's out here lurking like, ooh, this is some juicy gossip, let me catch a video of this. I'm like, girl, what is this supposed to do? What exactly is this supposed to do? And I keep saying, we're setting you up for us not to like you for some reason. What did you do? What role do you have to play? Who are you? And as the episode went on, I kept saying it. I'm like, who are you? Because I don't like you, and the series is telling me not to like you for some reason. So why are they trying so hard for me not to like you? What's going on here? Who are you? But then she goes and visits Na. She's like, oh, I saw Nut and he was out with Tofu at the mall and they were holding hands and it was just them, and Na's like, yeah, Tofu doesn't know his way around the city yet, so it makes sense that Nut would probably bring him home after work. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, yeah, they really care about each other, and Na's like, good, I'm happy. And she's like, yeah, but if you don't believe me, look at this video of them pretending to brush their teeth in the mall. Isn't this salacious? And I'm like, no, but okay. Like, I don't know what that was supposed to, in Jan's mind, I don't know what that was supposed to accomplish. Like, I don't know what she thought was gonna happen, if she thought it was gonna be this big, like, dramatic, like, meltdown that Na was gonna have. She was gonna be so distraught, she was gonna be angry, she was gonna, like, I don't know what in her narrative she thought was gonna happen, but nothing happened because the video she was showing her wasn't shit. Like, yeah. Let's see. We had the female coworker who was drunk, drinking her sorrows away. Again, went to have dinner with her. Cute bike boy showed up. We had that very stereotypical trip and fall onto each other's lips moment, which I'm like, don't nobody fall like this, but okay, we'll let y'all have this moment and we'll let it linger. That's fine, y'all going ahead. And then we started to make our way into the last leg of this episode where it was just emotional scene after emotional scene. And I started to have lots of feelings. Because at first, when we discovered that mom's not been taking her medicine, okay, that's one thing. One problem at a time. So mom's not been taking her medicine. And then we're starting to have the flashbacks. You know, mom's going to therapy, talking to the doctor, and like, okay. And the moment she started talking to, John over here, like, yeah, don't you think he worries about me? Or, something along those lines. I was like, he's not there. And then we saw like this look on the doctor's face, and I was like, she knows what's up. And then we got the flashback again from Nut's perspective, and again, nobody was there on the couch with Nah. But I won't say that I liked the way the conversation was going between them at that particular point when he was trying to reach her and like, hey, how long have you not been taking your medicine? We're trying to help you, this, that, the other. And she's, being stubborn, doesn't want to take her medicine. I won't say I liked the way the conversation was going, but I liked how for the majority of it, until we got to the tail end of it, but I liked how for the majority of it, Nut was at an intensity level of like 4.55, somewhere between like a 4 and a 6. He stayed, because in the past episodes, anytime we've seen him talk about his dad and whatnot, he immediately jumps to like 11, and it's like, baby, before this schizophrenia reveal came to be in this episode, we didn't know what was going on with mom. We know that there was something, and like I was hypothesizing, I didn't know if the memory issues were something to do with like actual mental issues, or if it's just her really not being able to let go, or what the thing is. But she's in a very fragile state, and the way to not effectively communicate with someone in a fragile state is to scream at them. Not gonna work. It's just not gonna work. So I liked that they were having this conversation and he was at this like middle level. Like you could still see him starting to get a little irate, a little angry and upset, but we were keeping it down for a little bit, because I'm like, okay, potentially we might be able to reach her, and even if we can't reach her completely, we might be able to at least get some points across to her and have some semblance of an effective conversation with her at this point. But then he started getting upset and irate and yelling, and he's sick of this, he's sick of and then that's when all communication just started to break down, and it just started to get really, really difficult, and everyone started screaming and crying. I'm like, oh no, oh goodness me. But like, I understand where he is coming from. I understand where he's coming from. Little known fact about Topher, well, not little known fact, but not publicized on the interwebs, but if you know me, y'all know I love my mama. She's been with me my entire life. But when I was in 10th grade, she was rear-ended in a car accident, and that led to her having all manner of health issues. She had to have multiple surgeries on her back. It led to years and years of various kinds of treatments and this, that, the other, blah, 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 blah. But she was sick. She was sick for a long time. And she still is. She has her good days. She has her bad days. She has various different issues. But there in the earlier days, for the first few years, so 10th grade, that was graduated in 2006, so that was 2004. So that was almost 20 years ago. Yeah, that was almost 20 years ago. Um, and she's still sick, like I said. Good days, bad days. But in those earlier years, when it was a huge adjustment for all of us, not just for her, obviously for her, because if you know anything about me, or if you've paid attention to any time I've talked about my mama, she's a very strong, independent woman who don't need no man. A trait that I've inherited from her. So it it was a huge adjustment going from that to slowly no longer being able to work, to slowly, being legally disabled. And adjustment for her, adjustment for the whole family. And like I love my mama to death. I do. I do. She's my heart. And I will cut a bitch whoever tries to hurt her. Like that. Um but even in loving her to death, that doesn't mean that there weren't difficult times. Especially when I was, coming out of high school, going into college, and I had all kinds of things that I was worrying about. Taking care of a sick family member, especially if it's someone you live with, because at that point I was still living at home. So taking care of a sick family member, especially if it's someone you live with, it can be very taxing. And yes, it's a labor of love. You're not doing it because you're expecting something out of it, but like anyone who's ever had to take care of a sick family member knows how emotionally taxing that can be, especially when it's a long duration. I'm not talking about just like, oh, this person had, hip surgery and they're going to be down for a couple weeks. Like, no, someone who is suffering lifelong, and it is a long extended period. Like it can be difficult. You have your good days, you have your bad days, especially when it starts. It can be difficult, basically. I won't get into too many details, but it can be difficult. And I can completely understand where he's coming from, where he's basically saying like, hey, I'm getting tired. And not that I'm getting tired of taking care of you, but like, hey, I'm trying to help you and you are not trying to help yourself, and I'm getting emotionally worn out. I can't do this forever. It is emotionally exhausting. And sometimes those are just very momentary feelings. Sometimes you just get overwhelmed by emotion and whatnot. You get overwhelmed by the situation and it's like, it's too much. I can't deal with everything right now. You just need to scream, shout, get everything out. Like, I get it. So I understand where he's coming from, where he's like, hey, I can't do this. Because I've had those moments where it's like, hey, I can't handle this right now. I'm just a kid. I can't handle this right now. But you do what you gotta do because you love them. You love them. So I understand more than you know. I understand the situation is not exactly the same. Different issues, different physical issues, different at times different mental issues that you could imagine accompany lifelong chronic pain. That just lots of issues I won't go into, but I understand where he's coming from. I really, really do. So, but again, it's not the way to approach a situation. It is not the way to approach a situation. Yelling and screaming at someone who is in that fragile of a state is not the way to reach them. It is not the way to reach them. Trying to force them, trying to force them or shock them into accepting the reality of the situation is not necessarily the way to get them to. It might work in some instances, but I don't feel like that's what this situation needed. So there were a lot of things in the tail end of the episode that it was difficult to watch. And I there's a lot of things I wanted to say, a lot of things I was trying to process, and I'm like, I'll wait, I'll take it all in, see where this goes, but at the end of the day, Nut just has, it's a tough situation to be in. It's a very difficult situation to be in, and Nut, I feel like his mom is not the only person who needs to be going to a doctor. She has, mental issues, diagnosed with schizophrenia as a result of this trauma that happened with, dad's passing. And the doctor explained it actually very, very well, in a way that I had never really thought about schizophrenia. But yeah, she needs whatever medical treatment it is, whether it's therapy on a regular basis or whether it's the medication, whatever. Every case is different, but she needs her own treatments. But I feel like Nut also needs treatments because he is harboring so much anger and aggression, and he just doesn't know how to process it healthily. So in that moment when Na was having her breakdown because the picture, she woke up and the picture changed, it's someone else, it's not her husband. Maybe that's a whole nother plot point we got to get into later. But when that whole breakdown was happening and Nut's coming downstairs and he's like, yeah, I changed the picture. Well, hey, that whole evil music that we had in the scene before when she was asleep on the chair and he just comes down the stairs, I'm like, I don't like this. I don't know what's about to happen, but I don't like this. But yeah, so Nut comes strolling down the stairs while she's having her, breakdown, and he's like, it's time for her to face the facts, blah, 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 blah. And then I'm like, baby, this is not how you do it. This is not how we have this conversation. You can't just shock her into, accepting the truth. That's, no, baby. And then poor Tofu's over here like, there's two Mr. Shans. Which one's your dad? And Nut is taking that as, I wasn't even remotely thinking that of Tofu implying that she was cheating or unfaithful or anything like. I wasn't even thinking that in the slightest. I was just sitting here thinking, hey, there's this poor boy who's never seen these people before, and now there's two of them. And he's like, okay, well, which one of these is which one? Like that's all I was saying. But when we were going through the reveal of, hey, Sean actually has a twin, I was starting to have like mental ideas like, okay, so the one that we've been seeing her picture is Sean, the one who is still alive. So did she have a thing for both brothers? Did both brothers have a thing for her? And then the more we were revisiting some of these flashbacks we already saw, and we were saying, okay, both brothers were in the picture here. It seemed as though both of them had a vested interest in her. But from the flashbacks we were getting from Jan, she seemed to be dating Sean. So what happened? Like, it feels like a very fair question to say, okay, which one of these is her husband? So obviously from the way Nut reacted and, the fact that he keeps saying his dad's dead, her husband was the other brother, not Sean. I can't remember his name right now, but not Sean. But was that the person that she loved? I don't know. Or was that just a consolation prize? I don't know. But clearly she's sitting here every day like, oh yeah, my husband Sean. Clearly her heart is reaching back, or her brain is reaching back to a time when she loved Sean, and Sean was the person she saw herself marrying. So what happened in the interim between her dating Sean to her getting married to the other brother? I don't know. I don't know. Still lots of questions, lots of things. But again, Nut does not know how to process his emotions, so now he's in here blaming Tofu for upsetting his mom. Like, how dare you ask that question? Don't you know as soon as you asked that question, she was upset? I'm like, no, baby, she was upset long before he asked that. She was upset when he woke up from bed. He woke up, came downstairs, and she was upset. She lost her damn mind. So no, him asking that question was not what sent her over the edge, baby. These little childish games over here, you playing, I'm gonna do a switcheroo with the pictures. That's what upset her, baby. But Nuts out here not, holding himself accountable for any of his actions. He's very much, just passing the blame. And I'm like, okay, baby, I need you to handle your emotions better. I need you to take some sense of responsibility for your actions. And I need you to stop hitting Tofu with your fist or with your car. Like, just stop, please. So thankfully, Gen was there to talk some semblance of sense into him. And like, hey, your plan is what set her off the edge. So before you start blaming other people, I need you to, take responsibility of some of the blame for yourself. Then we spent the rest of the episode with, what's her name? Jan. Filling Tofu in on some of the details. Again, we're painting her out to be this person that we don't like for some reason. So I don't know how much of what she says we can actually trust. But I mean, we can trust that she's married to Sean. I saw that portrait on the wall. And yeah. So it sounds like a very messy, sticky situation that happened in the past that we need to explore. Yeah. A lot of stuff happened. Lots of stuff happened. I've been recording for 2 hours. Pretty sure my bacon jerky's done at this point. So I'm going to stop talking so I can go get that out the oven. But yeah, lots of stuff happened. As much as I want to see what happens in the next episode, I don't have it in me right now. I just don't have it mentally in me right now. Maybe tomorrow. I'm off tomorrow, so maybe I'll have some more emotional energy to devote to another episode tomorrow. We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, anyway, lots of stuff to digest, lots of stuff to take in, and yeah, I'm sure there's lots of stuff I missed and didn't quite dive into as much as I wanted to, but there's just so much in this series to analyze. Oh, goodness me. Anywho, I hope you guys enjoyed this reaction. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, turn on notifications to be notified when all of my shenanigans get posted. If there's anything else you'd like me to react to, be sure to leave it down in the comments. I'll get to it as soon as I possibly can. If you'd like to support the channel in other ways, you're more than welcome to join us over on Patreon. You don't have to, but you're more than welcome to if you want to. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Love ya. Mwah.